Namaskar and welcome to BioAffairs. So today we'll be learning about competitive ELISA. Before that, I have already completed direct, indirect and sandwich ELISAs. If you have not seen the videos, kindly go to the I button or my description playlist. There will be receiving the notifications as well as the links to go to the directly to the videos. Now let's start the competitive ELISA. So it's a kind of ELISA where you can detect both antigen and antibody. Okay, so we have talked about direct where only antigen can be detected. In indirect, both antigen and antibody can be detected. In sandwich, only antigen can be detected. In competitive, both antigen and antibody can be detected. Okay, so first, as the name suggests, there will be a competition between the molecules. Now, here I have drawn a picture to detect the antigen. So, I will be detecting the antigen from the patient's serum. If the patient is positive, the antigens will be there in the serum and that will be detected through competitive ELISA. Now, first I have taken a well that is not coated, uncoated well. Okay, so nothing is coated, either antigen, neither antigen nor antibody. Okay, now in this well, I have given first the serum, the patient serum, in which or in whom I am going to detect the antigen. So first the patient serum is given at a particular amount and then primary antibodies were given. Now these primary antibodies are kit provided, whereas the serum antigen is from the patient. Now these primary antibodies are highly specific monoclonal antibodies that will attach or bind the antigen if it is present in the patient's serum. Now let's assume that the patient is positive, antigen is present and the antigen is bound by the primary antibodies. So after incubation, this solution will be given to the next well, okay, in another well. Now here this well is coated with artificial antigens, or you can say antigen captured well. Okay, now this green color dots are the antigen. Now both the blue, that is the original serum antigen, and the green antigen both can be detected and bound by the primary antibodies. So primary antibodies will be, or there will be a competition between the antigen bound antibodies and the empty antibodies whose both fragment for antigen binding sites are empty. Now you can see here I have drawn that few of the antibodies, primary antibodies, are already bound to the original antigen present in the serum. This one is free. This is not bound to the, because we don't know what is the concentration or the amount of antigen present in that particular amount you have given in the serum. Okay, and we have given a particular amount of antibody, but the concentration may differ. That's why some antibodies are bound with the original antigen or the serum antigen, and some antibodies are yet to bind the antigen. So for these sites, it will be competing, both antigens will be competing with the, either it will bind to the artificial antigen or it will bind to the serum antigen. Now it is natural, the affinity or the avidity, whatever you say, towards natural antigen is much more higher in comparison to artificial antigen. So if there is available serum antigens, it will always bind to the serum antigen. But if the serum antigens are not present, at that time these antibodies, primary antibodies, will bound to the artificial antigen. I hope I am clear. Now I will incubate the well for some time and then wash it off. Now suppose there is no free antibody, or there is no antibody present which will bind to the artificial antigen. Okay, because all the hands are occupied with the serum antigens. So nothing will bind to the artificial antigen. So no primary antibody is present. Free and primary antibody. Now incubate for some time and wash it off. So what will happen? The unbound antigen antibody complex or the antibody will be washed off from the well. Now what is the next step? Next step is to add the enzyme conjugated secondary antibody. So this secondary antibody is specific to the Fc region of the primary antibody, but interestingly there is nothing to bind, as all the antibodies are preoccupied with the serum antigen, nothing bound to the coated antigen. That's why when you washed off the well, all the primary antibody and the serum antigen washed away. So there is nothing left to bind with the secondary antibody. Again, after incubation, and you washed it off, because you don't know yet whether the antigen is present or not. Okay, so after incubation you washed it off, you added substrate, and interestingly there is no chromogen formation, there is no color change. So you will be considering your OD chart or the recommended positive and negative controls or the cutoff values to consider it as a negative result, because there is no such chromogen formation. Okay, so a negative result, does it mean the patient is negative? Does it say the patient is negative? No. A visually negative result gives you a positive patient. That is the beauty of competitive ELISA. Because as the serum antigen is present and the patient is positive, that's why only primary antibody is occupied. And that's why the primary antibody is occupied, and that is why there is nothing left after washing. So secondary antibody has nothing to bind. That's why there is no substrate, enzyme substrate conversion to chromogen, and there is a negative result. So remember that a negative result means a positive patient. Now let's consider the opposite one. The patient is negative for the antigen. Then what will happen? I will draw and explain. Now let's understand the opposite scenario. So here, same uncoated well, I have given the serum. The serum is negative for the desired antigen or the disease you are searching for. I have given the primary antibody. So primary antibody will not find any antigen to bind. So their binding sites will be empty. Nothing is bound to the antibody or fragment of antigen binding sites or the paratopes. Now this solution will be given here. So same thing, the antibodies are free to bound to any antigen present there. So here they will not find the original antigen, but the artificial antigen are coated there and it is waiting to be bound by the primary antibody. So the primary antibody will easily bound to the artificial antigen. Okay. Now after incubation you washed off the solution and you have given enzyme conjugated secondary antibody. So as these primary antibodies are already present there in a bound condition to the artificial antigen, the secondary antibody, enzyme conjugated secondary antibody, will be bound to the Fc region of the primary antibody. Okay. So now you have the complex primaries and enzyme conjugated antibody. So you give the substrate, enzyme is there, it will form a chromogen, it will give you a color, and visually it is a positive result. But actually it is a negative patient. Patient is negative for the antigen. So this is the very important step. The serum is negative for the desired antigen, which gives you a positive result. So that is why it is the beauty of competitive ELISA. A positive result means negative patient, and a negative result means the patient is positive for the antigen. So you can detect both antigen and antibody by exchanging the places. So I hope this has cleared your concept. If you have any question, ask me in the comment section, and you can mail me also. Thank you. So if you like my classes, give a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe my channel, because these things stimulate me to take futuristic classes for you guys. So thank you and be with me.